Well, hello. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're excited about what we're going to be talking about. You're going to be watching this maybe in the morning. You're going to be watching this at noon. I don't know when you're going to be watching this, but that's what it is right now for us. It's tonight. And I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about. I've brought in some friends. You'll notice off to my far left is Tim Harding, and he's here. He's married to Sarah. They've got 3 kiddos, 2 girls and a boy. Okay. All right. This is Brent. You know his wife probably better because she is like amazingly better than him, which is totally a blessing to Cornerstone anyways. But they have a daughter, and they are also part of Cornerstone. You know this incredibly good-looking bald man.
I'm just here for the eye candy.
Next to us, he's here to bring about the goodness of the Lord for all of us. And this is Steve Anderson and his wife, Jackie. And so anyways, we're just going to talk a little bit about what... Oh yeah, they've got actually the opposite of them. They've got 2 boys and a girl. And
3 kids.
What?
3 kids.
3 children. This is going to be a really long video. Yeah, it's the way to go, man. Your math is so good. So anyways, we're just going to have a discussion kind of about what God's doing. One of the things I've loved to do with these videos is to try to be practical about what are people thinking about and what are they wrestling with. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about all kinds of things across the board, anything from business to even how they're approaching looking at what's going on in the world right now, how they're engaging in what's going on in the world. And so that's what we'll be doing. Let me just start off this. You mind if I start with you, Steve?
Sure.
Why don't you just tell us like what is going on in your world, your family, besides the fact you got a new job? My gosh, you got a promotion. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Way to go. And your title was like the longest title I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I won't bore anyone to repeat that.
I changed my title now at Cornerstone because I want a long title. But no, anyways, how's your family doing? How are you processing what's going on? Maybe just fill us in a little bit.
We're doing well. I think I look at our situation and I say, wow, God, you've really blessed us. We're blessed somehow in incredible ways. My wife is able to be with the kids. She doesn't work. So she's able to really help them with teaching or with the school that they need. My job somehow in the midst of this, when I know so many people are struggling, God, why are you blessing me? But he is. And so I've had success there. And so really, as far as all of that is going, we're doing quite well. I think the one thing, and I was just talking to Spencer, reminding myself that while I get frustrated or things are not the way that I want it, my kids are going through that too. And how do I encourage them? Because they're missing their friends. They're missing interaction. They're missing and not loving having to be on a screen all day and having to do this stuff remote. And so it's very easy to get trapped in my own world and think, oh, I'm the one that's working. I got to do all this stuff. And no, they're dealing with it too. And so it's very much on my mind to try to encourage and say, right now, guys, you are my mission in a lot of ways. You're the gospel that, I need to be living out in front of you. So that's been a big focus recently.
How have you noticed, like maybe with your kids, like you said, you've noticed things in them. Yeah. Like how have you noticed that they're also experiencing this? What are some things you've seen besides the fact, that all kids disobey and do different things? Like how have you seen it?
There was and it kind of broke our heart a little bit. My one older son has, I don't know if this is proper, but he's actually been able to go out mountain biking with a friend, social distancing while biking. My youngest daughter still has a great friend from when we lived in Florida. They screen time all the time and are able to see each other and play. But my middle son was sort of saying, I want to do something. I miss my friends. Well, who do you want to connect with? And I think it took him a while to realize he didn't have somebody that he was ready to connect right away with. I think he wanted to connect with Tim's son, Eli. That was like the first person that he could think of. But beyond that, he's not as social as my other son. And so for him, when his brother's not around, there's nobody. And it's like, what do I do? Who do I connect with? Where do I have interaction? And what does that look like? And then for my daughter, I think sometimes with the schooling, it is just tough to be doing this kind of distance thing. She needs interaction. She needs guidance. She needs people. And so then that can lash out with frustration. And I come out from my cubby in my office and how's everyone doing out here? And I kind of get the look of, it's been a hard day. Which is my cue to, okay, gotta go back.
Yeah. I'll be over here if you need me. Yeah. Well, Tim, what about you? Like, what about your family? How have you seen things?
We've been doing well. I think the 3 of our families, we've all kind of marveled. We're in a community group together, and we just marveled at the blessing God's given us. We all have jobs where we were able to work remote, and the kids are able to school remote. So to me, I feel like my wife's got the tougher job. I'm still in front of a computer all day. I'm just in the kids' playroom, surrounded by Legos, trying to get work done. And they have the rest of the house, and they're trying to figure out on their Chromebooks, how to do the schooling side of things. So there's definitely new challenges. I mean, we're doing well, but there's good days and bad days, kind of like what Steve's alluding to. There's just a mourning of things that we've lost, And I think early on, I kind of recognized what was happening and where things were going before the rest of my family did. And so I kind of broke it to them all very early. I said to my daughter, like before the last day of school happened, before they shut down, I said, I think you've gone to your last day of elementary school. And that's a really a gut-wrenching thing, because there's so much in fifth grade where you're looking forward to that sort of culmination. There's a big outdoor overnight field trip that they save up for all year and they look forward to from kindergarten on, And that was a big mourning process of lost opportunities, right? My son, we love baseball. I helped coach him in baseball. And so we had a 3-game season, and we're just getting underway and so excited for all that. And then that was stripped away. And, my daughter, she just turned 7, my youngest, and, she just loves friends and had plans for a big birthday celebration. We did one of those drive-by birthdays, and it was special. But you miss the social aspects of community, of neighbors, of friends, of school. So that's definitely been tough.
How have you, because I know we've struggled through it, like you mentioned loss, right? And my wife and I talk about this a lot, that sometimes what our kids are experiencing, they're not like maybe openly wanting to be defiant, and different things like that they actually are like in mourning in some ways, right? In loss. How have you and your wife kind of dealt with kind of helping your kids to mourn through loss in your house? I
mean, yeah, you really have to sympathize with them and understand their kids. Their whole world is sometimes wrapped into one hope, right? One thing they're looking forward to, and it may seem dumb to you. Sometimes they hope for something that you look at and you're like, that's meaningless, but it's not to them, So you really do have to understand at their level, they're dying in a way, right? A little part of them is kind of dying. So just to be there with them, to try to make them feel special. I know one blessing in this time has been just so much more family time. And so I think, without maybe them verbalizing it, I think we've all really enjoyed spending more time together. We're not really, certainly the kids have moments, right? But we're not pulling our hair out. We're setting new rhythms in our lives where there's real joy in going on family bike rides and hikes and things we never made a lot of space for in the hectic, before COVID, there's just new rhythms that we find joy in, and it's just different, and there's still good there. So,
yeah. But different.
Very different, yeah.
Yeah. Which is interesting, especially do you have any kids that kind of are more, they have a rhythm and they operate well in a rhythm versus the kid that don't need the rhythm?
I've been kind of in awe of how flexible the kids have been and adaptive. I'm probably the most rigid and I honestly have had the most difficult time of anybody in my family. It's like I'm the one who's stressed the most probably, or have maybe mourned the way life has changed. And so that's been difficult on me, I think. And I've just asked Sarah, I said, show me grace, because I'm having a really tough time with what life looks like and what I think life is going to look like. So, and they've been showing me grace.
Yeah, I had a Zoom call with them before this, and they told me,
okay, good.
So that's why I'm asking the question. And Brent, what about you guys? How are you guys doing in this?
Yeah, pretty similar. We feel pretty blessed. We've been able to, be employed and do a lot of the normal things that we did as a family, but then everything else has changed outside of that. I would say probably pretty similar to Tim. We have one daughter, and so she feels a significant loss of social nature. She doesn't have any other kids around. And so it's kind of funny to watch. She'll sometimes spend like 2 hours on Zoom with a friend, and they're coloring, and they might not say anything for 5 minutes, but there's some of that's kind of there. But yeah, we've been able to kind of walk with each other in the loss, because we're all very social. All 3 of us in our family are, and you really feel the lack of relationship, and it's not what we want. But we've seen a lot of God's faithfulness within it still.
Yeah. What would you say, like, for your family? Because we've been able to watch your wife a little bit, with this stuff that she's doing on YouTube, and so I've kind of got a little bit of idea what you guys are wrestling through. But like when you say seeing God's faithfulness, so be more specific for me. Like, how have you guys seen God's faithfulness in your family?
I think there's been a number of times in our life where when we go through tough stuff, it's encouraging to see a good outcome from it. There's a sense of loss, so you want what's the gain? Because, as it says in Scripture, he works all things for good for those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. And so with that, what is the good? And we've certainly seen a lot of that that's shown his faithfulness. Like in our neighborhood, we know our neighbors better in the last 2 months than we did in the prior 2 years, because that's not somebody you have to drive to. That's not somebody you have to go to. I mean, one night I was out there with my daughter, and we're out front of our house, and we start talking with our neighbor from across the street, and we go, "You guys want to do dinner tomorrow night?" And they go, "Sure." We go, "Well, you get in your driveway, we'll get in our driveway." And we had a full dinner, just a street apart, and they have 2 small kids, and so Karis has gotten to know them, and so that's been cool. And then that led to now we have social distancing fire night, where there's a fire pit in the driveway.
It kills the virus anyways.
Yes, it does.
So
It's
cool.
totally.
Just so
But and now we've got some of those. They're almost becoming rhythms, and so we're seeing, while we've lost a lot of what we want, and I just had a conversation 2 nights ago with my daughter about how she misses her classmates, she misses her teacher, and you just kind of get to sit in that with her. It's not always about talking her out of it. You're redirecting so quick. It's just, let's mourn. That sucks.
Yeah, I know. So, okay, let me kick this out. We'll kind of have a little discussion through some things. Let's start with you guys as a community group. Obviously, you guys have been hanging out together for about a year-ish, give or take in that time. What would you say across the board, and anybody can speak first, I don't even care who, what has been the biggest thing in being together that you guys have learned about each other as you guys have been hanging together, being together in your relationship with Jesus? Like, what have you learned most about each other? And again, it can be anything from the silly, from the fact that Brant really does have issues to whatever it might be. He's got distance issues. He needed social distancing. This has been good for him. But yeah, what's been some of the things you guys have been learning? Again, I don't even care which one of you start off of it.
No, I just think it's just cool being in community in general. But it's interesting how we got kind of hooked back up together. The Andersons were in Tampa for a couple of years, and Brant was in Chicago and Orange County for 7, 8, 9 years, something like that. I mean, we all came from Cornerstone and sort of dispersed a little bit and kind of came back within a similar window. And we've got kids the same age, so there's just a lot of similarities there. But we're all very different. I think we have different outlooks, even with this virus and things going on. And yet we have in common just a faith in God and a desire to see his mission furthered. And so I think what that does, having different opinions and different outlooks and yet the same mission, we sort of push each other and encourage each other in ways that we wouldn't think ourselves. Like, Steve's got a different outlook on mission, and Brant's got a different outlook on mission, and we kind of push each other to view things a little differently. And even as we're doing our Zoom meetings for our community group, there's a real back and forth on, hey, this is what God's doing in my life, and there's an encouragement there. And so I don't know if there's any one thing in particular that I've learned about either of these guys, but I know they love Jesus, and our kids love each other, and we're committed to raising our kids in the faith. We're committed to impacting our communities however God calls us to, and just doing that on mission together is so much more powerful than trying to do it ourselves.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I would echo that, and I would say I think one thing that I've learned is, the differences are minor maybe because we've sort of set our foundation not only in Christ and our faith, but in the idea that there is this powerful experience that happens when you are on mission together. And I think we've all had that in different parts of our lives, and even together years ago. So when we come back together, it's clear we can disagree about a few things, or we can have a different approach or a different mindset, but all of that is just almost interesting conversation, because at the core, I trust and believe not only in Brant and in Tim, but in their wives, that we are fully aligned on the core principle that we are about Jesus, we're about his kingdom, we're about expanding that. And it's just a question of then how do we make that happen?
Yeah.
And what's the approach? What are the tactics? What are the specifics? It's not a question of, are you really into this? Are you kind of? Are you sure you're really there? We know that, and now we just kind of work off that as a foundation.
Yeah, we had a shared professor in seminary, Dr. McDougall, and I'll never forget this one time. I can't remember the book of the Bible we were studying, but I remember this statement, because the Bible doesn't matter to me. No, I'm just kidding. But he always used to say, gentlemen, we fight for unity, not for uniformity. He said, be careful of churches that become uniform. We're not designed to have uniformity. We're designed to have unity. And it sounds like for you guys, the big unity is in and around the person of Jesus, his kingdom, and all these other things just flavor who we are and help us to become who God's called us to be. Yeah, no, I love that. So,
Yeah, just to add to it, I think the thing that's actually been interesting is we pull away from so many people. The distinct need for community has shown through more than ever.
yeah, explain that.
Well, I think so we're talking about mission. Our goal is, I mean, I've never seen an opportunity in my lifetime, including 9/11 and things like that, for the gospel to show forth differently and unique and gloriously in our lives. But that doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah.
And so like there's I remember one week where it was like, man, it just seemed like I was in prayer and I was praying and in relationships and whatever context they could be, and things were going great. And then 1 week later, I'm like, man, it's dry. It's really tough. And I remember it was that week where Tim and Sarah just started sharing about some of the things they were doing and listening to not only what he was doing, but how his wife was out there delivering this to somebody in need and doing this, and how they just did what they were normally doing with intention and on mission. And I told him later, I go, you have no idea how much I needed that. Like when you're serving on mission, it wasn't just that he was serving those people, he was serving those watching him serve those people, including us and our family. And so that need is so important right now, especially because you don't have all those relationships at work that you're face to face with, or at church that you're faced. The best you get for connectivity outside of your own family is sometimes a Zoom meeting or a call or whatnot with community.
Yeah, I think what you said is crucial there, right? It's everybody keeps telling me, how do we serve in a time like this? How do we do this? You know, we're all sequestered, you know, we get this forced isolation going on. And yet when we do serve, like it gets amplified, right? Like that's probably what you guys are finding is by serving with the correct heart in these moments we do have, man, it gets amplified in a greater way.
Well, and it doesn't have to be some big program or project. We don't need to get 100 of us together in order for, you know, the kingdom to be impacted. And I mean, some of the things we're talking about, you know, like what's God done or what opportunities have you had? It's just things like, oh, we learned that a friend, they lost their job, and so we wanted to bring them something just to show, you know, we care about you. We're praying for you, and the opportunities are out there, absolutely. And you know, you as a family, you as an individual can just go do that, but don't let that be the end of it. Like, you know, like we talked about, share it. You know, that'll spur on someone else to do something else. Because I think too often in this time we are really in that survival mode. We're in our own heads or you know, hunkering down with our family, our tribe, right? And it's, you know, we're all struggling either mentally or financially or whatever. And so we are all about ourselves right now, even in the church. Like we are about ourselves. And it's only upon, like, you know, having your eyes open to, hey, there's suffering out there. There are people on my own street, my own neighborhood, people that I know, that I interact with on a normal basis that I haven't talked to recently, that are suffering, that need help. You kind of get out of that survival mode into mission mode, right? And I think that takes the encouragement of the body. I think we always will fall back on wallowing in our own self-pity unless someone brings you out of that, and that's absolutely necessary.
But in that, don't you think that, I mean, you guys have even said it already, like within your guys' relationship, there's difference, right? Or, you know, there's unity, but not uniformity. And sometimes we need those people to enter in and maybe they bring a different perspective, and that brings us out of those times of like, hey man, I just need to get out of my own head. But those can also be times of significant tension, right? And so I guess that would be the question I have is, what do you guys do when there's like tension because of the difference in your guys' either perspective, backgrounds, whatnot? Because I'm guessing you guys don't all agree all the time.
No, we do not.
Cage fighting works, right? No, except I'm a pacifist, right? So I'm just a really inconsistent pacifist. So
Yeah, I mean, I think Steve kind of hit on it. I think, you know, there are differences, but they do seem more minor. I think we all have a sort of a different comfort level in terms of interacting with other people. We're all in a different, you know, early on I was very like, okay, I have old people in my life. I don't want them to get sick. So I'm going to, you know, now I'm a lot more lax and what happens, happens, you know, but we've all sort of experienced this differently, you know, and so there's, I mean, we respect one another. We love one another. You have a difference of opinion. It's not going to bother me. We could debate it or talk about it, but it can become a distraction. So I don't think we've ever let any of those differences become front and center in our relationships, you know?
Yeah, you have to trust the heart of the person first and foremost, and remind yourself that, so that you don't get into this mode of thinking, oh, that's Brant. And Brant and I have had amazing conversations over the years. I mean, he's an amazing friend. And so there's probably been things we haven't agreed on, but at the core, I trust his heart so that I don't worry if this is going to go into a bad direction, because I don't have to have, you know, enmity or tension or weirdness, because we can always go back to, but we love Jesus, right? And then it's just a matter of how do we work past this, or how do we work into these little situations, these nuances, these differences.